Hello and welcome to our series on poetic devices. So I want to start this video off with a survey. If I were to show you Coca-Cola and Mountain Dew and ask you to pick which one you would prefer, however, I want you to throw taste out of the equation. Just which one do you think has a better name? Everyone picked one? Okay, so the reason I like this example is that these two brands really illustrate the two elements that go into creating poetry. According to the fantastic poet Kenneth Cook, poetry is made up of meaning and music. So in Coca-Cola, you have the music. It's fun to say. Say it out loud. Coca-Cola. You get a lot of repeated sounds. Our internal ear loves repetition. However, Mountain Dew uses meaning. It wants you to envision something, a strong, powerful mountain, and a light morning dew. Now, personally, I'd pick Coca-Cola because my mom told me to not drink anything yellow that runs off a mountain. But I can appreciate both brands' use of music or meaning in order to help sell their products. So today we're focusing on alliteration. And alliteration, if you saw the last video in this series on rhymes, is just the opposite of rhymes in a way, or at least the other end of the word. So if rhymes is repetition at the end of a word, alliteration is repetition at the beginning of a word. So one of the best examples that I've ever seen, this comes from the Poetry Foundation, shares this Dylan Thomas poem here, short little 2 lines of his poem. On the silent sea we have heard the sound that came from the wound wrapped in the salt sheet. Now what I'd like you to do is read that again to yourself if you need to and try and pick out all the examples of alliteration. Again, alliteration is when there's a repeated sound at the beginning of words. Did you find them all? So you might annotate this if you were reading this Dylan Thomas poem by underlining the words, but I've also bolded and color-coded them here for us to be able to see them a little bit easier. So as you can see, we have silent sea, have heard, wound wrapped, and salt sheet. You'll notice in that last one, salt and sheet, that's not the exact same sounds. It's almost like slant alliteration, but they're close enough to have the same effect. The other thing that I really love about these 2 lines is that you have the word sound in the middle of the 2 lines, the end of the first line there. And it sort of acts as a connecting point between the first set of alliteration, silent sea, and the last set of alliteration, salt sheet, and that you have those 5 SSH sounds all linked together. And it gives it this real sort of beautiful symmetry in terms of the sound of these 2 lines of poetry. Okay, so before we go on, I want to tell you a little story here, if you'll humor me. I wake up and like most people, I'm hungry. So I meander to the kitchen, but alas, there's no food. Fear not, I have a plan. I throw on my American Apparel t-shirt, slip on my Crocs classic clogs, and hop in my Mercury Milan. I take off past the Best Buy, Red Robin's, Bath & Body Works, which I always mix up with Bed Bath & Beyond, but whatever, and turn left at the Jimmy John's. I almost stop at Dunkin' Donuts, but I decide I'll make a full grocery run of it. And before you know it, I'm in the Shop and Save parking lot. I wind my way through the aisles till I find the breakfast section. I'm so hungry I can't help but pick up Captain Crunch, Cookie Crisp, Count Chocula, Oreo O's, Golden Grams, Frosted Flakes, Krispy Kreme, and because it's that special time of the year, Boo Berry. Now I'm guessing you probably figured out the reason for that silly little story. It's because companies and their marketing departments love alliteration. One of my favorite examples of alliteration is Peter Pan peanut butter, which is just really fun to say. I've never had it. Well, maybe I had. I think my great-grandmother served Peter Pan peanut butter. But I don't know why it's named after Peter Pan. The idea of youth, perhaps? It's not easy to say with a mouthful of peanut butter, but it's fun to say. Peter Pan peanut butter. And in that story, I have many, many instances of alliteration, and I'm only in the breakfast aisle. There is alliteration all over the place when it comes to marketing. Now, why is this? As I mentioned earlier, we as humans really love repetition. It's really attractive to our inner ear. So when we hear something like Peter Pan peanut butter, we think, hey, that sounds pretty good. So even if it's just on a subconscious level, we might be more inclined to stop at that place or to purchase that product simply because of the name. And there's nothing wrong with marketing. Poets are marketers of words. Usually poetry is a little bit more subtle in its alliteration, but not always. And even if there is a word or two thrown in between, those are really intentional. They want you to keep reading the poem. They want you to enjoy the sound of the poem and to come back for more poetry. That's not unlike someone trying to sell you misspelled donuts simply because they sound pretty good. The important thing to realize, though, when you study words, which in many ways poetry is the study of words, you recognize this sort of stuff. And I think that's really powerful because, your time and your money are valuable assets, and you don't want to spend them or use them on something simply because they sound good. You want to buy something because it's a good product, not because it was attractive to your inner ear. Shifting back to poetry here, poets are really meticulous with words and even syllables. If you're only going to have 20, 30, 100 words in a poem, you need to make sure they all work very well together and that each sound works really well together. So one of my favorite quotes about writing, it's attributed to Mark Twain, but every quote seems to be attributed to Mark Twain, so I don't know if he said it or not. But anyway, the quote is, "The difference between the right word and the almost right word is the difference between lightning and a lightning bug." One of them's really cute when it lands on you, the other one, not so much. So when you're reading poetry, it's important for you to read those words carefully. It might only take you 30 seconds to read a poem, but it probably took that poet hours, if not days or weeks, to compose it and get every single syllable in the proper location or the best location that they could find. One of my favorite examples of this comes from the poem Kubla Khan, which is set up to be like it was divined from this opium-induced dream, when in actuality, if we look at Coleridge's words and we look at his drafts, we can see just how much craftsmanship he put into the words after he had the idea. So I'm not going to go fully into it here because I have a whole video on Kubla Khan. If you're interested, it's linked up above or in the description below. But next time you read a poem, I want you to think about alliteration and how poets have carefully selected those sounds. And you do this long enough, you'll start to go crazy every time you go in the breakfast aisle. Thanks for watching. Keep reading.